Hi everybody, welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. DRF handicapper Mike Beer and I will take a look at two Kentucky Derby qualifying point races, the Grade 2 Risen Star Stakes at the Fairgrounds and the $100,000 El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate Fields. We'll also cover the DRF Bets Saturday race of the day, the Barbara Fritchie Stakes from Laurel. Nicole Russo's pedigree segment focuses on a couple of races at the Fairgrounds on Saturday. David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight, race number 4 at the Big A on Saturday. We'll also have horses to watch, tourney talk, best bets, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our horse watch segment. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst. Mark Cassie likes your horse to watch this week, and so do you.
Yeah, he takes charge. A 3-year-old colt who looks like he's still a bit of a work in progress, but there's something there with this horse. He has the huge pedigree. Who are the horses, Illman? The big dirt routers. Will Take Charge, the good Lucas horse. This horse wants to go all day long. This is his most recent start. He finally breaks his maiden here. He's the big gray. He was off the pace early, a big 13-horse field, in and among horses. But I like the way he held his position. He just runs right by the leader here in the stretch once he gets clear. Now you can see that he's still got some more to do. He's just a big dope out there. He makes the lead and he's sort of all over the place, goes back to his wrong lead, not really running again at the end of that race once he made the front. But this horse has some ability. It's just all about when he finally puts it together. Maybe it's too late to make him a Triple Crown kind of a horse, but I think he does have some real ability. He could be good. By the end of the year, this horse might be all right.
He certainly was lollygagging once he ran right by that pace setter. His ears went up. He went back to his left lead and he started playing around. He's a big scopy horse. I think distance is going to be his friend down the road, which is the exact opposite of my 3-year-old, the horse that you picked last week on Out of the Gate, big price winner of the San Vicente. Let's go back to that race right now. Kanthaka got the perfect setup. Here he is on the outside. The horses to his inside have just dueled themselves into defeat. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Illman, what are you giving us? This perfect trip, perfect scenario horse is a horse to watch. You should be giving us the runner-up, Nero, who is up close to the pace and is still punching on for second behind the good scenario winner, Kanthaka. Nero, I believe, is a better short-term candidate. I think he's going to stretch out. I think he's going to find graded stakes success in his future for Bob Baffert. Kanthaka is likely going to step up as well next time out against better horses in the San Felipe, the Bolt d'Oros, the McKinseys, the Solominis of the world. That might be too tough. That two-turn distance might be too far. But keep Kanthaka buried away on your horse watch. There are races for him. The one-turn Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins at Saratoga. These are one-turn races. You're going to watch that race again, the San Vicente, and you're going to see that tremendous burst of speed on the turn before inhaling the leaders in the stretch. I know he got the setup, but he's a very talented one-turn horse. That's Kanthaka. Keep an eye on him, a long-term horse to watch this week on Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the feature race at the Fairgrounds on Saturday. It is the Risen Star Stakes, the Grade 2 Risen Star at 1 1/16 for 3-year-olds. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. The two favorites in this race are the 5 Instilled Regard and the 9 Principe Guilherme. These horses are coming out of the Lecomte Stakes at the Fairgrounds. If you're looking for a stranger in this race, Mike, I guess you look to Todd Pletcher's undefeated runner, Noble Indy.
Yeah, I think you do. He probably is, that sort of wild card in this race anyway. We'll see what happens with, Noble Indy's 2 for 2 to start his career at Gulfstream for Pletcher. He knocked over a bunch of tomato cans in his debut, didn't beat anything, but he did it the right way. This is his second career start, stretching out around 2 turns for the first time, and he's only going to prevail by about 3/4 of a length, but I think he wins it easier than that. He kept right up with the pace the entire way, and he's just sort of pushed along here to get clear at the end. I liked this performance from him. I think he's got a lot of upside. He could really improve. He's got a great post in this race with a little bit of speed. There are things to like about this horse. We'll see if he can transfer his Gulfstream form, because it's not always a given with Pletcher.
It was a rock-solid performance at Gulfstream last time out. You're absolutely right about his tactical speed, his inside post. As we talked about in the stakes preview, the Timeform US Pace Projector has this race color-coded red. I'm not sure that's exactly going to be the case. In any way, it doesn't really matter for Instilled Regard, a horse who can come from the lead, a horse who can come from off it.
Right.
And this is is a horse I think that's got certain classic potential.
Yeah, I do too. I like the way that this horse is coming along for Jerry Hollendorfer, and I also like the fact that he's already got a race over this track where he just won the Lecomte, and I like the way that he won that race. I thought he won it very easily. One start prior to the Lecomte, we had the replay of his Losail Futurity, and I thought this was another race where he ran well. He's in between horses at the end of this race. There's no real excuse for him not to win here, but these are two pretty good colts that he's sort of duking it out with. Two Baffert colts, Solomini outside, McKinsey inside. They're both pretty good. And this horse maybe took the worst of it. I still, every time I watch this replay, I can't believe the disqualification they made to somehow make McKinsey the winner of this race, but that's what they did. But either way, Instilled Regard ran well in this race, and he ran better last time in the Lecomte.
Our colleague Matt Bernier is a big fan of Instilled Regard, and he's noted the sort of progression from start to start where he was really a green horse, sort of like your horse watch this week, but he's slowly putting it all together. He really finished off the Lecomte nicely. I think he can sit a good trip no matter how the pace shakes out. He can go to the lead if the pace is soft. I think the pace will be solid, not spectacular, and he can sit sort of the similar mid-pack trip last time out in the Lecomte. He's a short price, but he's the most likely winner and way the horse to beat. He's my top pick. Maybe I'd use Snapper Sinclair, the third place finisher in the Lecomte underneath. He's a real hardy horse, not as talented as Instilled Regard, but he's a real trier, and he's going to be a decent price once again. Nicole Russo's pedigree pick segment this week focuses on the fairground. Then we've got Peter Thomas Fornatella with all the latest in the worlds of tournaments in his Tourney Talk segment. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for Out of the Gate. With focus this weekend on fairgrounds, let's take an opportunity to look at a stellar Louisiana-bred racehorse, Star Guitar. In my opinion, now an underrated stallion. He'll have horses in a couple of prominent graded stakes on Saturday's loaded card at his home state's biggest track. Star Guitar, a super tough racehorse who earned more than $1.7 million, won 22 stakes, racing from ages 2 to 7. He won from 6 furlongs to a mile and an eighth, took 24 of 30 starts lifetime. I was really excited to see what he would throw as a stallion, being such a tough, versatile horse. He's also a representative of the Fabiano sire line via Quiet American that is so alive right now, particularly in high-end classic distance races. Now, standing in Louisiana, Star Guitar not going to have the numbers of some other stallions, going to struggle commercially a little, but he's making good use of his opportunities to date. He's had 36 winners from 55 starters from his first 2 crops to date. That's a solid 65% strike rate. He has 5 stakes winners and another 6 stakes placed runners for 20% stakes horses from starters. That's pretty impressive. His runners have mainly competed in Louisiana and Louisiana-bred stakes to date. They're going to start stepping up some more against open company, and we're going to see representatives for the stallion in both the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby preps on Saturday at Fairgrounds. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 2 Rachel Alexandra, topped by prominent Oaks contenders, including Grade 2 winner Wonder Godot, Monomoy Girl, a Grade 2 place stakes winner, Grade 1 winner Heavenly Love, and Grade 2 winner Patrona Margarita. Salty group. Down toward the inside, you see Star Guitar's representative, Testing 1-2, who has won 3 consecutive races by open lengths. After just decimating the field in the Louisiana Jewel going a mile, she then cut back to 7 furlongs for in the Take Charge Brandy. She comes from a bit further off the pace than she did in her previous wins. She split foes, kicked clear. She's continued to stretch out to the mile and a 16th here, but I like the tactics and the toughness she showed last out. And with her being overlooked on the board in favor of, again, this very salty group, she's potentially a viable long shot to pick up some pieces in the exotics, especially if there's a pace meltdown she can lay back off of. She's got the tools in her female family to go longer as well. The first foal out of a Louisiana-bred Scat Daddy mare, Yes Sir, who won on both turf and dirt at over a mile. Yes Sir's second dam, One More Breeze, classic placed in Canada, a half to a Canadian champion. One More Breeze produced a multiple graded winner going long on turf. Testing 1-2 certainly has the dirt ability coming from her sire and the additional stamina influence from her female family. Now let's take a quick look at the field for the Grade 2 Risen Star offering Derby points. The top 3 finishers from last month's Grade 3 LeCompte are back, led by winner Instilled Regard. Star Guitar's representative here is Give Me a Minute. Just broke his maiden going 6 furlongs against his fellow statebreds last out. He was really in the deep end last year as a maiden, with his best run being a 3rd place finish, beaten just a neck total in the Hopeful after a troubled start Grade 1 historic race at Saratoga. Made 2 additional Grade 1 starts last year as a maiden. His dam, Grade 3 placed Powerful Nation, got all her wins around 2 turns, won it up to 1 mile and 3/16. So this one also has all the tools to go 2 turns, but he's got a shoddy record at that distance in this point, all in graded stakes. His quality is really the question against this group. To analyze more of those questions for you about upcoming races this weekend, let's now get you over to Peter with Tournament Talk. Thanks for tuning in this week on Out of the Gate.
Peter Thomas Fornatal back with you on Out of the Gate, coming to you from the Langham Hotel in Pasadena, not too far from the beautiful Santa Anita, where I'll have the pleasure of attending the races this weekend. While attending the races or while watching the races from your home, there's no better place to follow along than DRF Tournaments. DRF Tournaments with some exciting new inventory just announced, in addition to running qualifiers for the Stronach Group Ultimate Betting Challenge. DRFT have just announced a deal with Keeneland to run qualifiers for the Keeneland Grade 1 Gamble. The Grade 1 Gamble, one of the most popular live bankroll contests out there. Folks flock from around the country to the Lexington Oval to enjoy a prize pool that is known for being not particularly top-heavy, unlike many contest events. A lot of players like that. It's a chance to go and win prizes, even if you run a little bit lower down in the money. Check out DRF Tournaments now for the specifics of those events. We've just passed this crazy flurry of activity between the Pegasus contest, the World Championship of Handicapping, and some big contest out in Las Vegas last weekend that I attended. Now our attention turns to the spring and these other live bank contests, specifically this one happening coast to coast, the Ultimate Betting Challenge happening at both Santa Anita and Gulfstream. That's going to be on Sunday, March 11th, slotting in the day right after the Horse Player World Series. The HPWS, another event that you can qualify for right now on DRF Tournaments. And I expect a lot of people to be doing something along the lines of arriving in Vegas midweek, playing in the 3 days at the Horse Player World Series, and then hopping a short flight, driving through the desert like I did with my man Leo the other day, going from Vegas to California and sitting there to participate in the Santa Anita contest. It's time to start thinking about your schedules, contest players, for the rest of the year. And DRF Tournaments can get you all the places you need to go, especially the World Championship of Handicapping. We've already begun qualifying for next year. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a $555,000 purse with no takeout, and we're again, the purse expected to get to the full allotment of $1 million the second time around. That would be based on selling out our field, which is limited to 200 entries. If you want to start your journey to the WCH, we have a free opportunity this weekend on DRF Tournaments. We also have a free credit contest sponsored by our friends at Laurel. Go to tournaments.drf.com to check it all out. That's all I have for now. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal. Stay tuned for more Out of the Gate.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Here's the field for Saturday's DRF Bets Race of the Day. It's the Grade 2 $300,000 Barbara Fritchie Stakes for fillies and mares going 7 furlongs at Laurel Park. You can access free formulator pass performances of this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. And for expanded stakes previews of all the graded races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, the morning line favorite in this race, and understandably so, is Highway Star, a multiple graded stakes winner. This is a New York bred with an iron will. She wants to beat you.
Yeah, she's just a really good horse. She shows up and she runs every time. And she just, she has one of those, that running style where they just can put her wherever they want in a race and she shows up. Her most recent start that we can look at now is the Go for One at the end of last year. And she got a good trip in this race because that's what she does. She gets good trips and she's clear in the stretch here. She just can't get to Indulgent on the lead here. Indulgent not letting her into the race, but she tries. 7 furlongs, fine for her. This is the kind of race where, generally speaking, a race like the Barbara Fritchie, she's just really tough in. Is she one of those horses when you see her as the morning line favorite in a race, you're terrified to bet against her? No, but you can expect her to show up and run her race every time.
Perhaps the only concern is this is her first race of the year. The connections have stated they really want to get a Grade 1 victory to really improve her value as a broodmare prospect down the road. This is probably just a starting off point, but if she shows up with anything close to her best, she is the one to beat. You like Burned in this race. Burned is a late running sprinter. They have found what she wants to do. That's one-turn racing. Does she get enough pace in the spot?
Yeah, we'll find out. I think that she should get enough pace in this race. When you talk about, Miss Locust Point is one of the favorites and wants to show speed. Divine Miss Gray, who we'll get to in a minute because you like her, down on the rail. I don't see how that horse isn't showing speed in this race. Even if the pace isn't blazing, I think it's going to be there for Burned. And she's going to need a little bit of it, but she's just one of those horses. You can just sort of pick her PPs apart. Every single one-turn race on dirt that she's run in her life, she fires every time, and that includes her most recent start to Safely Kept over this track, over this trip. She was at the back of this field early. She came down the outside, and she just powers right by this field. I really like the run she put in through the stretch stand. I like the way that she kept going after she passed the leaders in here, and she finished it off strong. I think there's enough pace in here to set her up, and I think this filly is still improving in these one-turn sprint races.
She is a dangerous contender to be sure. She's my second pick in the race and a must-use in the pick 4. I like Divine Miss Gray. We're going to go back to her performance in the Interborough. It was at this 7 furlong distance, and she had to deal with a couple of pace horses in the early portion of the race. She has just shaken clear from one of them, and here comes the runner-up, who's also in this field. The runner-up on her wrong lead got the great setup bull for Bill Mott. Divine Miss Gray, though, just keeps to her task. She is much improved for Danny Gargan. She has run some fast races. You mentioned she's down inside. She's going to have to go early, but it's not like there are a lot of other blazers in this race. She can either make the lead, maybe she can sit off Miss Locust Point, who's figuring to take a lot of money for the service barn. Either way, she's going to be very prominent when the field swings into the stretch. I think 9-2 is fair. That's her morning line odds. I'm going to go with Divine Miss Gray. I'm also going to use your horse Burned in the pick 4. We're going to head on out now for a synthetic race, a Kentucky Derby qualifying points race. It's the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate. Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Here's the field for the $100,000 El Camino Real Derby, carded as race number 7 at Golden Gate Fields on Saturday. We're going 1 1/8 on the Tapeta surface. It is a Kentucky Derby qualifying points race. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races and the El Camino Real Derby this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Jerry Hollendorfer has the morning line favorite in this race. It's Choo Choo, proven over the Tapeta surface with a win last time out in the local prep for the El Camino Real Derby.
Yeah, he won the Cal Derby. This was a pretty nice performance from this horse, too. Just sat right off the pace. You can see him. They're out in the clear now in the stretch. They set him down. I like how gamely he finishes in this race, Dan, to sort of close down the leaders in here. This was a nice performance for this horse in his first start over this surface. He might have to improve a little bit off of this race if some of the others, show up in this race. Some of the new faces show up in this race with their good race. But there's no denying that it's a big advantage that he has a nice win over the surface.
Stayed on very nicely in the Cal Derby. A mile and an eighth I don't think is going to be an issue. He's by the long-winded stallion English Channel. Lots to like except the price. Your horse in this race is going to offer a lot of price, and he's got a lot of upward potential. Perhaps this will only be start number 2.
Yeah, well, you would hope that this horse could take a little step forward. I don't know how much he really has to improve off his debut to win. He got a 75 buyer. Epical's the number 7. This is his first career start at Santa Anita on the turf, going a mile. He was after the pace in this race from the start all the way through the stretch here. You're going to see him drive down the horse on the lead finally in the stretch. I like this part of the race maybe best, Dan. He's going to finally get the better of the horse he's been chasing the entire way. Here comes the closer with the momentum down the outside. I like the way that this horse stays on when he sees that horse coming and holds him off at the end. I like the way he finished this race. He's got things working against him here. Second career start. He's got to go a mile and an eighth now. He's got to switch surfaces and ship up the Golden Gate Fields. But I thought this horse ran really well first time out, and I'm hoping he gets right up close to the pace here in the El Camino Real Derby.
You rarely see fillies against the boys these days in these Kentucky Derby qualifying races. I'm going to go with the filly in this field, and that is the number 1 Paved. In her first 2 starts on turf against fillies, she ran into a pretty good one down in Southern California named Ipodamia's Girl. And then last time out, perhaps most importantly, at this mile and an eighth distance at Santa Anita, she just came with a strong run and won a fast race. Let's take a look at Paved's most recent performance. She got a very nice trip and ride most of the way, saving ground well. A couple of horses had trouble with that first turn, but as you see, once she came with her wide bit on the far turn, she blew this race open immediately. This was a very fast race, an 88 buyer speed figure, and she did it at this mile and an eighth distance. And I'm banking that the good turf form will successfully transfer to a synthetic surface. There should be a healthy pace for Paved to rally into. That 88 buyer speed figure, anything close to that, puts her right in the mix in the El Camino Real Derby. JK's got a play of the day. Timeform US's David Aragona's Spotlight, one of the races at Aqueduct on Saturday. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Checking in from sunny California. The jet is fueled back up, as Pete Fornatella always likes to joke about on the DRF Players podcast. You'll see in the background my brother Mark Kinchin's studio. So I went in here. It's a little bit quieter than the rest of the house with all the kids running around. This week we're going to go out to Laurel. They got a bunch of great stakes races out there. I love playing Laurel's track. There's some advantages that can be had there. The inside is not where you want to be. Circling wide is an advantageous trip there. And common handicapping theories would make you think if you were wide, you weren't doing well. That's a little bit different at Laurel. I'm going to give you a daily double play in the two of the greatest stakes races they have. Starting in race 9, the General George. I'm going to use the 2 outside horses. Like I mentioned before, Awesome Banner down on the inside. The 2 hole will obviously take a little bit of money. But I'm going to stick with the 9, Great Stuff, and the 10, Do Share. The Great Stuff ran well in the toboggan last time. Obviously, with the 126 Timeform figure, was closed into some pretty fair fractions, but I think that horse will get similar today. And then also Do Share, another horse drawn outside, was in the slop last time, but the race before that was 6.5 at Aqueduct. And on a fast track and ran a good figure, won by a neck. I think that horse is going to also be circling on the good part of the track. Should be able to get fair prices with the inside horse taking a little bit of money with the 2 horse Awesome Banner. And I'm going to use those 2 horses in my daily double, the 9 and the 10, Great Stuff and Do Share. And if you move on to the grade 2 Barbara Fritchie, I'm going to use the 3 outside horses in this spot. The 9, Miss Locust Point, the 10, Kazan, and the 11, Highway Star. Miss Locust Point, I'm a little bit concerned that she might clear the field and get over to the rail. Luckily, the rider Vargas has been on the horse the last 2 times at Laurel. Hopefully is aware of the inside not being ideal. The pace should kind of fall right into her lap. It's a blue pace on Timeform, suggesting it's going to favor horses that are near the lead. I'm going to use Kazan, a horse that I've been following at Aqueduct and at Belmont. Very nice sprinting filly. I think she's kind of found her stride. Had some tough trips in the past against the track, and I think she'll do well from the outside here. And then Highway Star, obviously, was up close to the pace in that blistering pace in the Filly and Mare Sprint. Came back in the Go for One, ran second to Indulgent. I think this race should fit her with a little bit of a class relief, it feels like, from what she's had to deal with in her last few starts. And she's drawn outside as well. So I'm going to go 9, 10 in the race before, 9, 10, 11 here. It's one of those situations where the bias is leading to the ticket. Good luck. We'll see you guys next week.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona here for this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We'll be taking a look at one of the races at Aqueduct this weekend on Saturday. It's the 4th race. If you check out Aqueduct's card this weekend, I know we've had a lot of small fields in New York recently, but that's not the case on Saturday. There are big fields and interesting races throughout the day. And the biggest field that we have on tap on Saturday is this 4th race that we're going to look at. 11 horses are signed on for this claiming $14,000 non-winners of 3 lifetime race going a mile. If we take a look at the field for this race on the Timeform US preview screen, the favorite is number 10, Fielding Gold on the outside, and he's one of the horses that's projected to be up close to the pace. You see that red See Details button. If we click on that, we'll look at the entire pace projector, and the Timeform US pace projector is predicting that this race will feature a fast pace. The number 2 horse that's stretching out in distance, that's ZJ Wins. He's a long shot, but coming out of sprint races, he's one that should be forwardly placed. The 8 horse, Wilshire Star, is the other horse that's up close to the pace. He's one that's run his best races when he's on or near the lead. And the 10 horse Fielding Gold is a stalker that should be stalking the pace. There are some other tertiary speeds that should be right behind him in the early going. So in a field this large, we'll have a few that are up close pressing the pace. Let's take a look at that favorite, Fielding Gold. He's 3-1 on the morning line. And he's a horse that just fits very well at this level. Last time out, running in the same kind of spot. You'll see that the race rating next to the date with the 100 race rating with the box around it, it's color-coded in dark red. That indicates that January 26th was a day that was strongly favoring horses with speed. In addition to that, if you watch a lot of the races that day, you can see that horses that rode the rail, even those without speed, any horses that were on the rail throughout the day, seemed to have a distinct advantage. And Fielding Gold, while he wasn't extremely wide, he was one of the horses that was just outside the rail. He was racing in about the 2 to 3 path throughout, while the winner of that race, Quick, rode the rail the entire way and seemed to really be aided by the nature of the racetrack. So Fielding Gold was just mildly against circumstances that day. In his prior start on December 15th, he just broke a little bit slowly. You can see that he was far back in the opening call. He was 7th, about 4 lengths behind. That was because he broke a bit slowly and kind of had to play catch up throughout. So he's a horse that's in pretty good form. He doesn't win that many races, but I think he's one that you can reasonably rely on in this race. Other horses that are likely to take money, I'm not really enamored with. Horses like Barati, who doesn't really win that much and often, finishes 3rd or 4th. A horse like Mr. Euro, who won off the claim by Jason Service last time, who does an excellent job first off the claim, but he was facing a pretty weak field last time. I think he's stepping up into a tougher spot. But the other horse that's going to take money in this spot that I do respect is Lost Iron, the number 6th horse. He's the second choice on the morning line. Coming out of a slightly tougher spot last time, horses like the Great Samurai and Acoustic are just better horses than the ones he's facing here. He had showed some promise as a 3-year-old back a long time ago. He had a 1-year layoff at the end of 2016, and he's run 2 races since then. The first one was kind of slow, but there was a fast pace in that race, which you can see by the red color-coded pace figures on December 10th. And I thought he did well to be placed close to that pace and still finish strongly in the late stages. Then last time out, he took a nice step forward, second off the layoff, and ran a competitive speed figure. He's one that I think we can expect to continue that forward trajectory. You saw Linda Rice got a 100 trainer rating with horses coming back on 1 to 7 day rests. So I think it's a positive sign that she's running this horse back so quickly off that last effort. So he and Fielding Gold are 2 horses that are shorter prices on the morning line that I think are ones we can use. But let's look at 2 bigger prices that I think are interesting horses to try to get into the exotics in this race. One of those is Wilshire Star, the number 8 horse. Now, I remember looking at the pace projector. He was one horse that was projected to be up close to the pace. He is a speed horse, and if they go too fast early, that could hinder him in this spot. He's also coming out of that same race that Fielding Gold exits. And while he was a little bit wide also, I think what really hindered him was the start of that race. You see on the right side in the comment, it says he broke out at the start. And for a horse like him that needs to show speed, I think that really hindered him because the horse is just to his outside, Quick, and the other horse that showed speed in there, they also were trying to be forwardly placed, and they just kind of sawed him off and put him in behind horses early, which is not going to be a formula for success for him. So I think we can kind of just draw a line through that race. His prior effort, where he was 3rd behind Fielding Gold, gives him at least a decent chance to have a say in the outcome of this race. So he's one that I want to use at a bigger price. But the top pick in this race for me is Thirsty Donnerstag, the number 3 horse. If there's one horse that can really take advantage of the projected fast pace in this race, I think it's this guy. He's just a deep closing sword that really needs a fast pace ahead of him, and I think he's going to get it here. Last time out, he was the horse that I thought was most hindered by the race flow because he was far back that day early in the pack on a day where, Quick wired the field and speeds were just riding the rail the entire way and winning by big margins. And he came off the rail at about the half-mile pole and just proceeded to race about 3 to 4 wide for the last half of the race. I think he ran much better than it seems. In his prior start, going 1.25 miles, he again was against the race flow that day. All the horses rode the rail that were successful in the 1, 2, 3 positions, and he was the only horse that kind of was outside of that rail position and made a late move. I think Thirsty Donnerstag is a horse that's just subtly improving in his last few starts, and he's going out for low-profile connections, so he's going to be a pretty decent price in here, and he's the one that I want at around 8 or 10 to 1 on the morning line. I think we'll get about that price. So Thirsty Donnerstag for me in the 4th race at Aqueduct. Let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Mike Beer, Naira analyst. You're going to the Big A on Saturday, New York Bred Stakes action.
Yeah, the Haynesfield comes early on the card, race number 3, $100,000 one-turn mile for the New York Breds. I'm going to try pop a shot in this race. He's off of a layoff for Linda Rice. I don't love taking horses off of layoffs, but this horse, I think if any horse needed a layoff and it could really benefit from one, it's probably Papa Shot, who ran basically right through 2016 and then right through 2017 without any kind of a real break. He looked like after his most recent 3 starts at the end of last year, maybe he needed a little bit of time off. But I really like this horse coming back with a little freshening, especially in a one-turn route. His last 3 starts last year, all 9 furlongs. I think that's a little too far for this horse. The mile's a better distance for him. We're going to show you a race of his from last year, the Saginaw, on July 2nd, where he's coming from off the pace here, way back in the field off the turn, and he's just going to grind on through the stretch. No chance to get to diversify the winner of this race, but I like the way the Papa Shot raced on through the stretch to be second, and I just really like his form over the one-turn routing, especially a mile and a 16th races. When they finally cut him back last year, he ran a 104 Beyer at Belmont. Then he came back with this effort, which was a nice second to diversify. One of those 2 races, if he can run something like that on Saturday, I think this is a field that he can be, and he might actually be a square price in this race.
I'll go to Laurel on the Barbara Fritchie undercard. This is the big sprint race for the boys, the General George, race number 9, and I'm going to go with number 2, Awesome Banner. Awesome Banner, 2 and 3 starts back. Those running lines look hideous, and a lot of folks thought that maybe it was all over for Awesome Banner, who had run some pretty good races over the summer for trainer Ken Decker. If you pick apart those bad running lines, though, you might be able to find some excuses against the flow both times. He came back at Laurel most recently in the Fireplug Stakes. This is the local prep for the General George, and Awesome Banner sat second in the early portion of the race. He just grabs Favorite Tail, the even money favorite at the top of the stretch, puts him away, and is able to hold off a couple of closers that are both entered back in the General George. It was nice to see that Awesome Banner can still run, and I think a similar trip is coming in the General George, where he can sit off of the speed down towards the inside, and I think Awesome Banner might be able to take over this thing at the top of the stretch. That's Awesome Banner. I think 7 to 2 or 4 to 1 is fair value for Awesome Banner in the General George. We thank you so much for watching this week, and we want to remind you, you can follow Daily Racing Form, America's Turf Authority, on Twitter at DRF Inside Post, and for the latest DRF TV offerings, follow at DRF Video. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.